Hello, my name is Betalina, and I'm the executive director of the 17th Annual Damn Short Film Festival. Thank you for joining us virtually. We are coming at you live from Boulder City, Nevada, and all over the world with our filmmakers. We're doing a Q&A session today for the Drama G Hearth and Home program. Let's get our filmmakers up on the screen.
Hey, hello.
Hi.
Hey guys.
Hi.
Thank you all for joining us. Let's have you introduce yourself, tell us the name of your project, what your role was, and where you're calling from. We'll start with Mark.
I took the liberty of putting our film title on my thing. Yeah, I'm the writer director of Gunnif. I'm based in London.
It's great. Catherine?
Hi, I'm Catherine Fisher. I'm the director of Proof of Loss.
Thank you. Dale?
I'm Dale Griffiths-Stamos, and I'm the writer-director of The Dinner Guest.
Oh, and Dale, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Santa Barbara, California.
Santa Barbara. And Catherine, did you say where you are?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I'm in Los Angeles.
Well,
We can
Already
only keep
failing.
two things in our head.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. That was too much. Sorry. Trying to. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We are taking questions from the audience. So wherever you're tuning in from, please send us a question for any one of these filmmakers or all the filmmakers. We are here for about 45 minutes of just talking about your films and filmmaking. And I'd like to start it off with why was it important for you to either tell the story, right, whether you're a writer or whether you are just, a part of the team? Why was it important for you to be a part of this project and tell this story? We'll start with Mark.
My film is really personal. My family survived the Holocaust, and I wanted to try and tell a story that I haven't seen told that much, which is what happened afterwards. I think there's always a feeling that at the end of the war, the pain kind of disappeared or ended somehow. And obviously I've seen in my family a lot of the aftermath, the sort of quiet pain and trauma of people that went through terrible things and then suddenly were expected to live, nice ordinary lives again. So my film sort of tries to explore how that trauma got just stuck around and passed on from someone who is a version in a way of my grandmother, although different in the film, to the next generation, to the kind of my mother's generation. So the film is about the relationship mainly between a little girl in 1960s London and her mother and a cleaner in the house, and how her mother's paranoia about life in general after surviving the war is sort of passed on and distorted and put into her child. So it was very personal for me. Yeah,
it was very beautiful, and that there's not a lot talked about generational trauma, and it's just such a important part of life that should be discussed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Catherine, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I live in California, so fires have begun to be kind of like an annual threat to everyone here. I think it's affected everybody I know, including friends that we had up in Northern California. So we had the opportunity to work with people on the ground in Paradise, California, which recently experienced a devastating fire. And we wanted to tell a story that both examined the grief and the loss of losing everything, but also looking at how that impacts the family dynamic. In our case, a father and a daughter. And we just I really wanted to look at, what is it like for two people on seemingly opposite ends of the grieving spectrum who are forced to come together because of this outside separate tragedy, and looking at the complexities of grief and the connection then between loss and love and relief and survival, and how that kind of plays off of each other when you're talking about interpersonal familial dynamics. I feel like that's relatable for me personally, and that's certainly why that's something I want to be a part of. But then on top of that, looking at the larger scope of environmental impact on all of us currently, especially in California, but everywhere around the world.
Yes, thank you. And some of those moments that you don't really consider and think about that you have to deal with after such a tragedy, that it just kind of puts you, gives some perspective to the even bigger picture of, wow, what happens next? And I think with short films especially, it's so important to see all these different perspectives and be able to put ourselves in other people's shoes. And that's what's so great about a short film festival. So thank you. And
Yeah.
Dale, how about you?
Well, before I talk about mine, I did want to mention to Catherine that, gosh, it resonated with me because we lost a home in a fire in Santa Barbara, but even more deeply, my older brother lost his home in San Diego County. And like your story, his wife who had passed away, all the memories from her. And unlike your story, he had 2 hours to basically, and he chose not to. And so I actually ended up writing a play called Out of the Rubble that dealt with why did he not take those memories. Yeah. So it really did resonate. And Mark also, Ganef, oh gosh.
Thanks.
So lovely. And the little girl, the way she interprets what her mother's saying and misinterprets, is wonderful. So for my film, it's called The Dinner Guest, as I said, and I've been a playwright for many years, and this was originally a play with the same 2 actresses, by the way. I cast them again in the movie because they were so wonderful in the play, which was done in Los Angeles. But at any rate, where it came from was a story that had circulated in my family, an aunt who had passed away, and I didn't know her all that well. But I heard through that sort of family grapevine that she had invited her husband's mistress to dinner. And I didn't know more than that. So, of course, I think Mark and Catherine, you probably are both writers as well. And when you have a writer's mind, you go, oh, okay, why? Why would she do that? I'd heard something vaguely about the children were there at the dinner table, something like that. And so I concocted the story of she did it to basically find a way to drum the mistress out of her husband's life. And in the play version, which is really interesting, it was a broad comedy. There was something about it being on stage that it just was and all those double entendres I have in the movie. Well, actually, there were many more double entendres in the play, so it made it much funnier. When we came to filming it, and I adapted it to be a screenplay, it got deeper, and it started getting much more about these relationships between the 3 people and the psychological cat and mouse game that the wife was playing with the mistress. And so it was an interesting transition into something that had been a comedy into really something that you might say a dramedy, but probably much more a drama.
Thank you, Dale. And definitely that theatrical, I mean, such a what a situation to be in with those 2 actresses. And so thank you so much. And I do want to thank you, Dale, for we've spent some time virtually and in some of our mixers and on the virtual lounge. So I just want to thank you so much for always being so great at initiating conversations. And you've been to the in-person festival before. Yeah. So thank you for joining us through the virtual world as well. So I don't think we have any questions yet from the audience, so send those in. But I'd like to ask Mark a question. So big kudos to that actress, the young, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but the young actress.
Oh
She
yeah,
was
Isabella.
incredible.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, do you have any tips for how do you approach working with children, and what was that experience working with her?
Well, I mean, it was my first time shooting around she was five when we auditioned her, and 6, I think, when we shot with her. And she had done some commercials before, but she'd never done a narrative. And I probably might not have taken that risk if I'd been a more experienced filmmaker who'd been through it before, not because she was problematic, but just because in advance of that, the issues that you've got. You have so much fewer hours on set to film, and you have to take into account chaperones and stuff. So the pressure that I felt I was under to get what I needed out of this performance, for this actress who's really very rarely off screen, and we had 3.5 days to shoot the film, was intense. But as it turned out, I really, really lucked in. I mean, she's an amazing person. Her parents are both, their first language is Polish, and they are immigrants to the UK. And she often although they can speak some English, she interprets for them. And they were her chaperones, so she was kind of interpreting for her chaperones. And it meant that as a small person in the world, she already had quite a lot of agency and confidence in herself, not in a brattish way, but just, she'd taken responsibility for stuff. And she was amazing. I mean, when we auditioned her at the final audition, we did several rounds of auditions. We met with like 15 brilliant little girls. She's kind of like a firework, on some level. But once she got in front of the camera, she was so present and so natural. And also, which was extraordinary, like understood the game of shooting, even though, she understood that there was a frame that she had to arrive in, and it didn't matter really what was happening outside the frame. She knew that she had to create something inside the frame. And she she was completely natural, emotionally accessed, and understood things. And I felt I could talk to her on a level. And even to the point where there were a couple of takes where there are some big moments in the movie where in the film where she has to experience shock and surprise in close up, which can risk looking, not great. But she did it, she delivered it. And then we took some insurance shots where she would say to me, eyes wider. So she just like make her eyes bigger eyes. And it sounds stupid, but what she was giving me was, some of that stuff's in the film and it looks real. So I was blessed, and I may not be as blessed the next time, because each child, I think, requires, a lot of playing to their strengths and, working out kind of what they can and can't do, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it sounds like she just had that intrinsic intuition to probably from her experience, being in some ways, not a parent, but like being a parent to your parent, and not in a way,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But also understanding, I think what she had naturally was she was young enough. I wanted to find a girl who was young enough to make to be plausibly confused by what her mother had told her, but old enough to be trying to process it. And it's a really particular age where, in development of a person, your front lobe processing is kind of like not quite, it's emotion. It can be very flooded by emotion and adult kind of overload, but you're also trying to decode what's happening. And a bit older, and you wouldn't maybe not have bought the story, if you see what I mean. The child might have asked the questions you as an adult might have asked of the confusion, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway.
So interesting. Thank you. we have a question from the audience. Yay. What was the most difficult part of making your film? Which technical aspect is most important to you or shines most in your film? Acting, lighting, photography, etc. We'll start with Catherine.
Okay. Yeah, the most difficult part of this film was shooting in a place where a mass trauma had actually occurred. And making sure that you were kind of walking that line between getting what you needed as a filmmaker and also being respectful, making sure that everyone under you and with you was respectful of the space and the time and what had actually happened where we were. We had an amazing crew, an amazing cast who were all kind of on board. But that was something that we talked a lot about in terms of how we were coming into spaces. And not only, just in terms of being respectful, but also being cognizant of what had happened, especially from an actor's perspective, and being able to utilize that in the performance. So, Paradise had no electricity. There was few places with running water. Everything was very much, it was a disaster area at the time that we shot it in. So we relied on, obviously what you rely on most of the time in terms of generators and stuff like that, but also the kindness of people that were still in the community and living there amongst this, including, one restaurant that had remained open that kind of helped us as a base camp. But finding out and figuring out how to make all that work. We had to obviously bring in toilets, from a production standpoint, it was like going basically to the middle of nowhere and creating everything yourself. So technically that was difficult, and also keeping everybody focused and on the same page in the midst of that, because it's very natural to want to explore and then to kind of get further into kind of what had happened there. But keeping everything kind of running on time and time in general, I think was tricky, just because obviously most of it was outside. We had limited amount of light. In terms of, what was the second part of the question? Which technical, I can't choose. I can't choose. For me, I come from an acting and producing background. But for me, it comes down to making things look the way that the tone and the intention of the writing, was designed to look. So acting, lighting, cinematography, those are the kind of key to making the words come off the page and creating that beauty, even when it's not beautiful, but creating that beauty is what I love to do and is the technical aspects that I think are most important to me.
Dale, how about you?
The most difficult part, what's interesting is that I had done 3 films before Dinner Guest, which were ones that I had written and were directed by other people. So I've now done 3 more films that I also directed myself as well as writing. Dinner Guest was the first one that I wrote and directed. So I have 2 others. And because it was my first, what was the most difficult part? Everything. Because I was learning on the set how to be a film director. Luckily, I had a really strong crew, really good DP, great AD. But I was learning things like, well, when do you say cut? And, what? and set, sound set, light set, where the various technical terms that you have to use on a set were all new to me. I remember at one point we had a focus puller, and at one point he just leaned over to me because he was always close to me. He leaned over and he says, "This is really going well." And I went, yes, like, okay, I'm not completely blowing it, And then I love the editing process afterwards. We didn't talk about they're not asking about on set, but I love the editing process because I really think you do so much of the shaping of the film. But in terms of the actual day of 2 days, we had 2 days, acting to me is paramount, mostly because writing is so important to me, and therefore the acting and writing are so intimately attached to each other. And this was one reason why I wanted to recast the same actresses who had done the play, because I already knew that they had that incredible dynamic between them. And then I really, that's the part of directing that I took most naturally to, because having had years in the theater, I'm so used to working with actors, not as a director in theater, as a writer, but nonetheless watching other directors worked with actors. So that came really naturally to me, the between takes, talks to the actors where you take them aside. And that was very comfortable for me. The technical stuff I had to learn and did. But the other thing that I find really important is music. I have some music background, and choosing the music that has to go into something to me is really important. And in this case, I knew that a song that a friend of mine had co-written with someone else was going to be the right song. And it opens with the instrumental part of that song, and then it ends with the you can hear the lyrics of the song. And in between, I hired a composer, and he gave me some material, and he was also my sound designer. I ended up not using it, because I realized that actually having that opening song and ending song as bookends was absolutely the way to go, and no music should be in between, which is kind of hard when I still paid him, obviously, but kind of hard when, you've gone through that process. But intuitively, I knew that to be true. But with my other films, they have a lot more music in them, and I'm just very, very hyper involved in how music sets a mood. And again, we're talking post, but yes, during the filming, as has already been said here, all of the aspects are so important, and I'm so glad that I had such top-notch crew who I knew were really handling those aspects well.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Mark?
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, there's lots to say, I guess. Writing it in the first place, this is the first original thing I've written, and I just getting it out of me. And I like Dale. I spent 20 years directing in the theater, so working with actors is not a fearful thing for me. It's very instinctive. But I also, in the theater, like, the writer is God, and
Yes.
and in film, the director is it is the director's medium. So having worked I've always wanted to write, but I've never thought of myself as, like a Dale, like someone who's like a playwright, a writer. So it's taken me till quite long, just to write this film, to get over that confidence bump. Was a big deal. And then once I'd done that, and it was in the hands of other people who were sort of saying, yeah, this who wanted to work on it, that was very, very validating. Other areas, learning. I'd made a couple of smaller shorts, but this was the biggest crew I'd worked with, and so there were embarrassing things I did not know. Interviewing crew for positions, and I was asking them what their position. I was asking them what they did. And a couple of positions, particularly Gaffer, I didn't know what Gaffer did, and I'm a huge film fan, but I'd never really had to kind of engage with that. And now, I will never, that old person who didn't know what a Gaffer was is gone. I now truly, worship. The guy Theo, who was our Gaffer, the job he and my DP did together was, they were like, them and their crew were like sailors in a storm. We were moving so fast, moving lights around this house, exteriors, interiors, so fast. Like what they put in, was an amazing shift. It was just to get the thing done and get the thing in the can. It was really amazing. But yeah, like shot listing and storyboarding was painful, but, reducing our shots from, an impossible like 75 shots to like 40 shots was one of the most difficult but one of the most exacting and rewarding experiences in the kind of 7 days leading up to shooting. hand drawing everything and making sure that our choices were that perfect combination of distilled to a practical level, and also absolutely kind of what we essentially needed to tell the story. But I think doing that and that process and knowing where you were on set together, so that, you know, if there were small changes you wanted to make, it wasn't going to kind of unravel everything. That was such an amazing, I'm a control freak, and that was perfect for my control freakery. You know, I loved that I loved framing my story, both on paper and then afterwards. And the edit, I learned a lot. My editor is an extraordinary feature film editor who I was so lucky to get, and she just edited this film Rocks that was at Toronto and is nominated for BAFTAs, and she's an amazing editor, and I learned a huge amount from her. And the most painful thing I learned from her was to share our cuts as we went really early, not to hold them in and just keep them secret, but just get them out to people. Even the first edit went out to like some really scary people who gave us notes. So just the toughness of making a film and being really prepared to take some criticism as you're making it makes the film better. Anyway, I got lots more to say, but yeah, those were some of them.
That's great. Thank you. Let's talk about a little bit about the current state of the festival circuit. Have you seen your film in front of with an audience yet? Has it been through any other virtual festivals? What's that experience been like? Catherine, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you know, like Dale, this is my first time directing as well. So this is my first time having a film that I directed on the festival circuit. I was a producer for years before, so I've experienced it in that way, but this is different. It's been, you know, it's kind of bittersweet. It's exciting. It's, you know, it's all the things, you know, you want it to be in front of people. You're excited that people are seeing it and responding to it, but you know so little as a filmmaker when it's virtual. When you're in theater with people, you can gauge reactions, you can talk to people in real time. You kind of have a better sense of how people are experiencing your film. Whereas with it's virtual, it's like, you know what's going on, you know people are watching it. But that's all you know. So it's you know, it's challenging in that, you know, you want to use the exposure to kind of, you know, be able to talk about, you know, why and the whys and the hows and the what you want to do next and all that. And in this format, it's a little bit more difficult. At the same time, it also is really great because we get the opportunity to show it to more people that wouldn't necessarily be in the city for the festival or whatever. So it's you know, it's a little bit more broad, but at the same time, we're limited in terms of what we know and what we experience. But it's been great. We have shown a few other festivals. This is, I think, our third or fourth. And things like this are really valuable, and just being able to see people's faces, you know, that, you know, I've never met before, which is great. And rare these days. So that's nice. But you guys did a really great job of making this accessible to audiences and also to us as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I realize that asking this question kind of makes it so you guys have to compliment us back. So thank you. but
anytime.
So you haven't had a chance to see it with an audience yet. Did it come out during COVID? Yeah.
Yeah, we've not been able to screen it in front of people. So, I mean, I know my parents love it, so that's great. But other than that,
most important thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I made it.
Dale, how about you?
Well, this film was completed in 2017, so well before. And the other two that I've done were completed in 2018 and 2019, which means that I have had the lucky situation of having been live with all of the ones that I wrote and directed. So what, interestingly enough, the latest one was done in February, and I think this one played in something in February. These were live, played in something in February, and the other one played in something in February. And then, of course, everything shut down. So then I've been virtual ever since. But this one, I think, has gone to about 13 festivals. But I've had multiple times of it being live. And the most interesting thing about the live experience, and I know you guys, Catherine, you will enjoy this when it happens, is audience responses, some of which you don't expect. For example, in mine, I kind of meant the male character who's, the man who's cheating on his wife. In my intention, this was the first time he'd ever done this. But he says a line in the film, "I'm not a cheating man." And you should hear the sounds in the audience among the women, particularly. And you should hear the sort of uncomfortable sounds coming from the men. Mm-hmm. It's a very, I would often get two different reactions. And women would say, "Oh, no, he's done this multiple times. I mean, he's clearly a philanderer, which wasn't really my intention, but that's okay. It's okay for people to walk away with. And the men would say, "Oh, God, it just made me squirm," So that live reaction stuff is fabulous. And I know, Mark, you're going to talk about whether yours has gone live yet or not, but if it hasn't, yes, it's really fun to have that back and forth between an audience when you're doing a Q&A. Having said that, I've done, I think, 20 virtual festivals this year. So I've been having a lot of experience with virtual, and there are some pluses. Like you said, Catherine, there are some real pluses. One of which is you really kind of, with the Zoom get-togethers, you really have a kind of a way of getting to know people better. And the other major plus is people can watch it from wherever they are. So I could send a note to my girlfriend in England and say, watch my film in this festival, and she can. And that's a plus, so it's not a complete trade-off. Live is obviously ultimately going to be much better, but there are some nice perks that come along with the virtual. And yes, I will compliment you about Damn Short. You guys are doing a great job, and I've been in some virtual ones where the job wasn't as good. They were really trying to find their way. And I've been in others. Early on, I was in Dances with Films, and they did a fantastic job. And I've been, looking at the things they did and kind of seeing what they put into place as some of the best things for virtual. But some festivals have a bit harder time. But you guys are doing great.
Thank you. I mean, one of the most important things in our festival is that filmmaker experience, and obviously the theater is, our beautiful 400-seat historic theater where each screening has a very good sized audience. So filmmakers are always, even if it's in the morning, and they show up and the theater is packed, and they're just surprised that that's the case. But we have a great following. I mean, with 17 years, behind our back, we strive to do our best. But Mark, how about you?
Well, look, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I didn't make this film for a laptop. I made it, for we hired a post house screening room, and worked with our colorist on a big screen, and I wanted to put it up there. There are details in my film that I think you possibly don't quite get as strongly on a laptop, which is because I didn't make it for a laptop. Mm-hmm. And as the other guys have been saying, the collective, I have not seen it live. Mm. We've played at 20 festivals, and I have not seen it live. We played once in Madrid when it was impossible to travel there, and that was the one live experience, but I wasn't in the audience. So I want that. I'm desperate for that shared experience, and I'm also, as Catherine was saying, I'm also, and Dale was saying, I'm desperate to learn what my film is, it through another audience. I want to grow as a filmmaker, and I realize that things may not be quite as, hitting certain points storytelling points might not be working as I imagine. So there is a comfortable sort of insulation about these online festivals, you know, a comfortable insulation from audiences. And I really, really can't wait for this all to finish. And but that said, I am so grateful that festivals like yours have invested in and adapted to ensure that we can have some form of festival, because the flip side of it is I'm here, I'm in London, and it is 9:35 in the evening, and I'm talking to you. And the culture of these online conversations probably wasn't present when there were physical festivals. So we're having a conversation about it. I don't know how many people are listening to this, but you know, that is amazing. And I've been able to access programs of films that I would never have been able to travel to. So I've seen more films than I probably would have otherwise seen. Most of my festivals have been in the States. I've had films on in LA and like across America, and I can tell you that I would have made every attempt to get to them, but I wouldn't have made it to all of them. So that's been amazing. And you know, some festivals, in terms of my experience of the virtual festivals, some festivals have not. Everyone deserves a huge pat on the back for just adapting and creating it online. Some festivals have been less interested in cultivating conversation spaces, mixers. I think partly because some festivals are multi-layered festivals where you have features and docs and animations and short films, and so when the focus is on short films, like with yours, then we're all together. You know, the short filmmakers are kind of often really engaged with. But when you're in a festival where really the main event is the feature films, and you're kind of tacked on somewhere, you don't often get that same level of engagement. So like, but you know, like, all power to you. And this is a really well organized conversation. And I wish I could have come to the mixers, but it was like 3 a.m. So I just couldn't have come. But like, it's so ups and downs.
You know, I wanted to add to what Mark said, or kind of veer off from it a little bit, in that my other life is still in theater. You know, I still am a playwright, and theater, unlike film festivals, has come to a screeching halt. I mean, the most we can do are Zoom readings. And I can assure you, Zoom readings are not ideal. You know, they're not the way you want to see a play presented. But it's the only choice we have. And so one of the nice things about film festivals is they can happen online, because the films are whole and complete. So you can still watch the film. It's not like theater or any of the other performing arts, which are live performing arts. Those have all gone by the wayside. So in a way, the fact that there are virtual festivals is a blessing. And the other thing I wanted to say, you were talking about coming to the United States, Mark. I desperately want to go to Ireland. I've been to England. I've been to Wales. My Griffiths is a good Welsh name. And I've been to Scotland. I have not been to Ireland, and I very much want to go. So I got into the International Irish or Dublin Short Film Festival. Yay! And it's virtual. Oh, and I couldn't travel there anyway. Oh, you know, so nice to get in, but I would have been on a plane flying out there, you know, but there you go.
Well, my whole family lives in Ireland, so when this all clears up, just let me know. We'll get you there.
Oh, thank you. But you know, that's the other thing about it all. When it all clears up, I think what we do forget is it is going to all clear up, and we are going to get our vaccines, and we are going to be able to move forward. And Catherine, you and Mark are going to have the experience of a live, because I mean, I have a film from, luckily damn short, 2017, they're still accepting films from a little earlier. And there are a number of festivals that have like a 3-year window or a 4-year window. And if they do, keep submitting to the live ones. You guys will then get that experience. You obviously are going to get into a bunch more. So, you know, keep that in mind. This is temporary. And you'll get, and I hope to get to meet you in person, both of you.
Maybe in Ireland.
Likewise,
Yeah, in
yeah.
Ireland. We'll meet up in Ireland.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
in
the,
Ireland we'll see each other. Yeah.
I've never been to Ireland either. Let's
Oh, you're
all
welcome.
meet in
Let's go.
Ireland. All
What is
right.
this
Yeah, let's
about?
all meet in Ireland. That's great. Let's make a date. Anyway.
That's great. So we just have a few more minutes. I think we still don't have any more questions from the audience, but I'd like to hear about what's next for you. And has anything through this pandemic, as we've all talked about adapting, has anything come out of it where you maybe wouldn't have learned a skill or anything good come out of it? And what are you working on next? We'll start with Catherine.
So after Proof of Loss, I co-directed another short, a genre short that we shot in New Orleans right before everything locked down a year ago, December. So we're finishing that. That should be getting to festivals soon. And then I'm also going to co-direct a feature that just got a production company involved. So we're just trying to secure the financing for that. But what this has all kind of made me do is focus a little bit more on creating content and writing. I am not a writer. And Mark, like you were saying, there's like anxiety and kind of like imposter syndrome around saying or even thinking that maybe you could do it or I could do it. So trying to really hone in on that and see if I actually can, because it's the one thing that I can just do on my own, here. So I'm not in the writing stage yet, but definitely in the kind of creating the story and outline stage. And I hope that, in the next few months, I've been working with the New Orleans Film Society with a grant through them, and also the Film Independent here in Los Angeles to kind of hone that a little bit more. So basically, I've been trying to write. We'll see. I'll let you know how it goes in like a year.
Great. Well, submit to the damn short when everything's ready.
Well, it's a feature. Yeah, I gotta get
Okay.
damn long film festival.
We'll just have to have a new festival called
Exactly.
I don't know. Dale, how about you?
Well, speaking of writing, one of the things I thought this year, because I have 3 films circulating, I thought this year was going to be nonstop traveling to film festivals. Well, although I've been doing them virtually, because I'm at home, one, I can do 2 festivals at a time, which is kind of cool. But because I'm at home and have really more time, I have been writing like a fool. I mean, it just plummeted me back into the writing. So I completed a full-length play that has been kicking my ass for I cannot tell you how long. So that was really great that I did that. I've been working on adaptations of 2 of my features 2 of my full lengths into features. And then I've also started a brand new from scratch feature film that I'm writing. And I've got a little team that I've worked with on another short. And so we're starting to look at the moving forward with one of those feature scripts into production. But we're just at the beginning of that phase. But because of the pandemic, I have material now that I wouldn't have had. So that's a good thing. That part was a good thing. And I have another film I will send to you guys next year. That's that 3rd one I talked about, my latest short, and I'll definitely send it your way. And my director and I have been working on another one that we're in post with it. A director I worked on with another film. So yeah, so it's been pretty productive, actually.
That's great. Mark, how about you?
Yeah, writing as well. I'm writing. I've never done this before, and I had no intention of doing it, but I'm writing a play for a theatre in London, and that is, to borrow your phrase, kicking my ass, my ass, kicking my ass.
I like ass.
Yeah. No, I'm working my ass off on it at the moment, and it's a real challenge. And I'm writing a spec feature, which I've been working on for a while, and I will, and I'm developing a TV show with 2 other writers. And I'm trying to, honestly, what I really also want to do is like get some projects started with other writers where I'm not necessarily attached. So I'm trying to get some money together to do some sort of seed, because I love creative producing as well, and I think it gives me energy to get things started with other people and not to be totally kind of boxed into my own head and reliant only on my own thing. So I have a production company, and we're gonna get some material optioned and get some other writers involved too in the next few months.
That's great.
And I did want to mention that I also have been working kind of like Mark with 2 other collaborators on a television pilot, and so we're just about to start the pitching process of that, which is its own uphill climb.
Well, yeah, good luck with that. Can I have each of you just go around and tell people how to find you, social media or website? We'll start with Mark.
Yeah, you can. I'm sorry, I'm just looking up my Insta handle. You can find me on my website is markrosenblatt.com, and my short film is on Gunef, GANEF _ short film, and I am on just mark.rosenblatt on Insta. So some way or another you can get me.
That's great. Catherine, how about you?
Yeah, my website for my production company is called Speed of Joy. So it's speedofjoy.com. My Instagram is k.r.fisher. And also for the film, my amazing producers and the production company behind Proof of Loss is Drinkwater. So I think at Drinkwater, let me double check that. It's at Drinkwater or at Drinkwater Productions. Come back to me. Let me double check.
Sure.
Can I just add one thing? Sorry.
No. Add, Mark. Go ahead.
I completely forgot to say that if anyone is interested in buying our film, our sales company is premiumfilms.com, premium-films.com in Paris. So if anyone out there is wanting it, they're the people to go to.
Please support everybody.
Thanks.
And my production company, or the production company for Proof of Loss, which is Laura Zach and Graham Walrazak, is at Drinkwater Studios on Instagram.
I was gonna say that because I'm the one that does social media and stuff, and I've seen you guys post stuff, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I'm glad I knew it.
Yes.
Dale, how about you?
So it's pretty easy to find me. I have a general website which actually has all of my various forms of writing on it, including songwriting, which I have done also. It's Dale Griffiths Stamos, my full name.com. Make sure to put an S on the end of Griffiths. And then my production company is Venice Sky Productions. So that's also easy. It's Venice Sky Prods.com. And then I'm much more on Facebook than anything else. I have Instagram. I can't even tell you my handle because I don't use it consistently enough. So the best way to contact me is via Facebook. And so you just look for my name. I think it's just under Dale Stamos on Facebook. And I would love if you guys would friend me. If you do Facebook at all, if you'd friend me, all of you, I just love to keep in contact. So that's it.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. This is actually our last Q&A of this festival, so it's a great way to end that. We have one more live stream tonight at 7 p.m. It is the awards ceremony, which is awesome. We actually have about 10 minutes left at 2 p.m. PST. Voting ends, so if you haven't gotten in your votes and rated all the films in each program, please do that. That's how we do our most of our awards are audience awards. So please do that. And what else? Join us in the virtual lounge. Just go to damnshortfilm.org, and under 2021 Festival, there's a link down there. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you at 7 p.m. live tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thanks for having us.
Thanks.